I'm Dustin, heading into week 15 for your fantasy football season, and what a crazy first week of the playoffs it was. You had the miracle in Miami, you had Amari Cooper blowing up, you had the Rams offense throwing out a huge dud. But hopefully all his teams are still in it. You're gearing up for week 15, plenty to talk about. I shoot this before the Monday night game, so keep that in mind. I rank these in order on how I would pick them up based on a 0.5 PPR. And I always start with the pickup of the week, kind of the guy that I think is going to get the most attention in terms of the added in the most leagues, so his ownership needs to be fairly low. And this is brought to you by FanDuel. Get into the action if you haven't already. Click on the link in the description. Sign up, deposit, play some daily, especially if your season long's over. Get in there. It's a lot of fun. But the pickup of the week this week is Elijah McGuire. And this is a guy that's shown flashes in the past. Crowell's banged up. He's got a foot injury, which is always, definitely not a good thing for a running back. Foot injuries can be tricky. McGuire looked pretty good in relief. He had 20 touches. He had 60 rushing yards, 23 receiving, found the end zone. He could be an interesting short-term solution moving forward, so give him a look. Some other running backs, Derrick Henry. I mean, if you had him in your lineup, congratulations, but man, with how he's looked this year, it would have been hard to start him, but this is what he can do when he gets out into space. When he has a chance to get up to speed, he's one of the hardest people in the league to bring down, but he just hasn't been finding the holes. It's going to be hard to start him. I mean, it was a big game. I don't see him as any more than a flex shot option moving forward, but man, was that a monster game. He's still available in about 40% of leagues. Chris Ivory is next. McCoy's banged up. They're saying he's day-to-day. I'd be surprised if he suits up week 15, so Ivory could be a decent add if you're looking for a short-term solution there. Justin Jackson I want to talk about. Eckler got banged up. It's a short week. I think there's a decent chance Eckler doesn't play. But Melvin Gordon, I would bet is going to come back this week. Week 14, they had an easy matchup against the Bengals, so maybe they were just holding them out, getting them ready for this monster game for them on Thursday against Kansas City. So I think Gordon's probably coming back, but if Eckler and Gordon both miss, Jackson probably is going to find our RB2 spot in our rankings. So he's someone to certainly pick up if he's still available. So a few more people. Jeff Wilson looked pretty decent week 14. If Breida misses another game, he could be decent. Darren Sproles, Clement got banged up, so it's just one more guy out of the way out there for the Eagles. Sproles is still going to be in a limited role, but in PPR leagues, I don't mind him. And then I did want to talk about Kenneth Dixon as well. He's back and healthy with the Ravens now. Gus is still the man out there, but Dixon factored in a little bit more than I thought he would. And with that really run-heavy team, I think Dixon could be a decent desperation flex play in deeper leagues. Wide receiver, Curtis Samuel, another solid week for him out there in Carolina. Still only owned in 35% of leagues. I think that number needs to change. His upside is certainly high. Conley and Robinson for the Chiefs. I got them on here. Short week. I don't think Tyreek Hill plays. I mean, he was able to play through the injury on Sunday, but I am sure he is very sore today. And it's only a few days until Thursday, so I don't think Hill's going to play. So this gives a bump to all the other KC pass catchers. So I think you got to consider both these guys as potential adds. Pettis for San Francisco, fairly quiet in terms of receptions, but found the end zone again week 14. So he keeps on doing it. We got Hamilton for Denver. Solid game with him with the first game since the Emmanuel Sanders injury. Looks like Hamilton could be the guy that gets the biggest bump out there with Sanders being out. Didi's looked pretty good. Quarterback changes a lot of times. You got a receiver that starts to get a little bit more involved, and I think Westbrook could be that guy. He's only on 35% of leagues, so I don't mind him. Then I do want to talk about Taywan Taylor as well for Tennessee. This isn't a guy to get super excited about, but 9 catches over his last 2 games. He's starting to get more involved, starting to gain some confidence. Mariota has had his ups and downs, but Taylor looks like he could be headed to be maybe Mariota's favorite target out there in terms of wide receivers. Quarterback, Mr. Dak, does it again, but he's still only on in 60% of leagues. I don't necessarily love him week 15, at Indy. I don't hate him, but then he's got Tampa Bay week 16. So like I've been saying for weeks now, Dak's going to finish as a QB1 over the second half, and that has certainly happened. Another monster game for him. Lamar Jackson, I like him week 15 against Tampa Bay. We'll work on our rankings in a little bit, a couple days here as we get our rankings show up. But you got like Rodgers at Chicago. Goff coming off that crazy terrible game. You're probably not benching Goff for Jackson, but I think Jackson could be a better option than a lot of QBs this week. We'll sit down and figure out where he fits in. But against Tampa Bay, whose D has been a little bit better lately, but with what Jackson can do with his legs, I think he might find some lineups this week. Ryan Tannehill's back. Looked pretty good. Beat the Patriots. Everyone knows I'm a big Tannehill fan. This isn't anything more than, if you're in 2 QB leagues, should you be considering Tannehill, but I don't mind him down the stretch. And then Josh Johnson as well with the Redskins. Looks pretty good when he came in. They've already announced him the starter for Week 15, but they got Jacksonville, so temper your expectations. And also remember, Johnson came in when, they were just playing from behind. Giants were playing back, and it is a pretty bad Giants defense to begin with. So Johnson, really deep leagues, just because of what he can do with his legs, I think he could be decent. Tight end, Evan Ingram is back. He was dropped in a lot of leagues after his injury, but looks like he's healthy enough to consider picking back up. Ian Thomas, I want to talk about for Carolina. I don't necessarily normally like picking up the backup tight ends when one goes down, because a lot of times they don't necessarily take on the same load in terms of targets and receptions. But Thomas has been really solid since Olsen went down. He has 14 catches over his last 2 games. That's certainly something you can't ignore. Only owned in 10% of leagues. I think he's a decent add if you're looking for a tight end. Defense is Jacksonville going up against Washington. They're only available in 30% of leagues, but if they're out there, you got to be excited about that potential matchup. And then I don't mind Detroit at Buffalo. Detroit's D is nothing to get too excited about, but Buffalo, even though they've played better, they still continue to give up a lot of points to opposing defenses. So only on 20% of leagues. Do not mind Detroit. And if you got an extra roster spot, go ahead and check out your defense situation for next week as well. Go ahead and line up both your defensive matchups for this week and next week. If New England's available, for example, they're at home against Buffalo Week 16, and you just go ahead and plan ahead for those matchups. But that's the Week 15 waiver wire. Good luck in your leagues. We'll be back later in the week with our ranking show, and enjoy that Monday night game.